Hello, Assalamu alaikum, students. I hope you are well and enjoying this course. First of all, this is going to be the first lecture here for Programming Fundamentals course, and we're not starting from the very start because we have already done in the in presence lectures already, and we have started chapter number 2. We have done a lot amount of programming in the lab as well, and probably I will be going on with the English language here. So pardon me if anyone cannot understand it. In fact, I will be asking for your comments here if this lecture should be done in Urdu or it should be done in English. But I will prefer the English part over here because normally my online lectures, this will be available on my YouTube channel, are probably mostly on the English language, unless and until I want to go on towards the Urdu language or any other language. That is mostly easy. The last lecture which we did before this shifting to the online lecture stuff, we were talking about the operators up till now. One thing very important, I will be sharing with you today also some of the links which are important over there. In fact, one of the links which is related to your book, that is Detail and Detail, the book which we are following over there, the ninth edition book, Detail and Detail, as you can see over here on this link. And this is that link. I will share this link with over there. And just to give you an idea, we are at present in the introductory programming fundamentals, the first 5 chapters, which is our target before our midterm. We are at present today in chapter number 2. Hopefully today chapter number 3 will be half finished, or I will try to finish it as much as possible. And then most probably by the next week, or uh, maybe in just like 2 weeks, we will be completing these 5 chapters of this first part. And then after the midterms, we'll be doing the part 2 over here. Now on this link over there, some very important things are available. If you remember last time when I was doing this stuff in the class, we would not have, and I was copying the code from the slides over there, which was not a very good way. So what I have got over there is actually the source code. So all the codes which are inside this one are actually available at this GitHub repository. So I have downloaded the zip file and I have opened that zip file over there. I have downloaded it from by clicking on this one, download zip over there. And now they are available in my Visual Studio, and you can see now all those chapter number 216, chapter number 217. So you can see now the arithmetic operators and everything, they are available over there in this part over there. So you can see chapter number 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all those chapters are available. Just to let confirm that I'm actually using the exact same chapter. Actually, yes, this is the book and these are the examples. So if I have this one, okay, so I have this now. Sorry, that was the other folder, and I will show you one more thing after this thing. So this is chapter number 2. You can see now. So you have the 3 inputs coming in from the chapter, and then you have this one, welcome to C. We have already done this one before. I'm just giving you idea that all these codes are available. If anyone wants this code, you can go at this link, or and you can finally download everything. Today we are actually talking about the codes which are available. We have all, if you remember last time, last lecture, we did this integer 1 and integer 2. We were taking 2 inputs as an integer and then we were printing their sum over there. And today we will be going on towards the conditional statements. By what I mean by conditional, that some statements which have to be processed based on a condition. So if supposingly you are asking a user that what is your age, so if that user has entered an age of supposedly an 18, so this means that you are eligible to see the next content, or you want that content to be displayed to you, just like you agree to a statement whenever you are surfing online. So similarly, your program is actually going to ask some input from the user based on the data input already. So the program is actually going to process it that, okay, this was the input and your input does not qualify, so you are not allowed to, or if it qualifies, then you are actually going to see that code or see that calculation or whatever that processing has to be done, that is going to be done in that code. And that is actually called as the conditional statement. And that conditional statement, of course, is going to start with the if statement or if else statement over there. I will come back to this later on, going back to the slides actually, because I'm following the slides over there. We have already done this in the lab, I guess, and that is arithmetic operators, plus, minus, multiplication, division, remainder. I'm just going a little back further, so there is an overlap between the last lecture and this lecture. And this one is the modulus or the remainder over there, and we have already used this five operators in the lab as well. And one thing very, very important, you can use them for your integers, you can use it for your float, or you can use it for your double. Of course, you can't use it for your character and all that stuff. When we will be talking about the string and the pointer operators, then we will talk about in much detail about it. But at present, we are only concerned about this, the integers and all that stuff over there. Multiplication operator can also work for strings and all that, because if you want to catenate some strings over there, or you want to add some two names, like supposedly you have stored the first name in somewhere else and last name or the middle name in somewhere else, and you want to add them together, then you can actually use that addition or the subtraction, or sorry, the multiplication operator over there. So you have to use them, but we will come back to that one when we're talking about the strings over there. We already are familiar that whenever you are going to store integers over here, so if you have an integer 7 and you are dividing it by 4, so of course the answer is just going to be 1, because the numbers are integers, they are not float. If they were float, then of course it would be something 1 point whatever that answer. Here is 1.75, as you can see over there, but remainingly, because this is integer, so that's why it's going to be. And similarly, the same thing goes on for the remainder operator, that is actually the modulus, that is 7 divided by 4, the remainder is going to be equal to 3, because it's not going to fully divide, it's an integer over there. So remember, remainder operator is always going to work on the integers over there, it's not going to work over there. Very, very important, whenever you are dividing something, I have told you this one in the previous classes also, that whenever you are dividing something, please remember that you have to do a division by 0. So the program will have a fatal error, and it's going to have a runtime error, and the program will be terminated. So whenever you are trying to make some calculator, you are going to do some calculations. Supposedly you have been asked to find out the average of some three numbers or four numbers. Please always make sure that whenever you are doing this division, and that division either is integer or either it's float or somewhat, please remember you have to always find out that if the division is being done by 0, then you are not going to allow it, because the program is going to crash. And by crash, I mean that the computer does not know, because computer does not understand infinity. We know whenever you divide any real number with 0, then that means the answer is infinity, and that's not going to be the true value. So of course the program is going to crash and it's going to be terminated. So this is very much important over there. Next thing, very important, I will come back to this with 0 in the next chapter, and we will have an example as well in the examples part as well, and I will show you that one as well. One thing very important, just for the people, because many of you are from the bio background, so maybe this is not remembered from your previous elementary classes, because but normally in fifth, sixth class in mathematics courses, we normally do this thing, and that rule is called as the PEMDAS rule, where P stands for parenthesis, E stands for exponentials, M stands for the multiplication, D stands for division, A stands for addition, and S stands for subtraction. This is actually the preference rule, which we call it starting from, of course, the left hand side. P stands for parenthesis. So if you have a mathematical equation in front of you, of course, you have to do the parenthesis first, whatever type of parentheses are there, the curly brackets or whatever you have used over there. So you have to use that one first of all, then the exponents over there, then the multiplications, and then the division. But of course, again, remember, this has to be done from the left to the right over there. This is something very important. So parenthesis, you have to do it first. So if there is any parenthesis inside your equation, you have to do it first. Then you have the multiplication, division, and the mod, that is from left to right. And then again, also the left to right for the plus and negative over here. This is actually the negative sign, and this is just a dash over here separating the text from the symbol over there. And then at the last, when you have done all these calculations in this order of operation, then you can use the assignment operator, that whatever you have got on the right hand side, now you are going to assign it towards the left hand side, whatever that variable. For example, if you see this result over there, result is equal to 3 plus 4 into 5. Now normally the common mistake which can be done is you always do 3 plus 4 7, 7 into 5, answer is 35, which is wrong, because according to PEMDAS rule, you have to first of all multiply, because there is no parenthesis over there is no exponential over there is no division over there. So the only thing which you have to do is in M, that is multiplication. So 4 into 5 is 20, then 20 plus 3 is 23, and then that 23 is going to be assigned to your result. So this is the normal rule which you have to always follow over there. Similarly, another example over there, you can see over there, you have an a plus b plus c plus d plus e equal to 5. Now, you normally see this one that, okay, this is going to be written like this. So this means that you are going to sum all of them and then divide by 5. But that's not the case, because here you have not added some parentheses over there. And when you have not added some parentheses over there, so what it is going to do, it's going to take e divided by 5 first and then add everything with a plus b plus c plus d plus e by 5. So this is going to be wrong, because you actually want the average of the five numbers you have added, and these five are the variables a, b, c, d, e. So have the correct version, that will be parentheses added over there across the five variables or five numbers. They can be integer, they can be float as well. So a plus b plus c plus d plus e and parenthesis close divided by 5 over there. So this is the normal correct way. Another complex expression, just to give you an idea, if you can see this one, which I've highlighted here with my selection from the mouse, this is P into R and this one. Now, if you remember your PEMDAS rule, very simply over there, you have to first of all do the multiplication. That's very important. So the P into R from left towards the right. Remember, this is from the left towards the right over there. So P into R, because there is no parenthesis, so first of all, you are going to have P into R. Then you are going to do it with the mod, which is actually the uh, mod by q. So whatever the result of p of r, p multiplied by r, that is done by the modulus by q. And then afterwards, then next thing, before adding it, because now the next thing is division over there. Remember, because we are going from left to the right. If there are no parentheses, then you have to follow the left to the right. So first of all, w divided by x. Then that w by x, you can add your step 2 here, which was the result over here, this one, whatever the result of here is for this part. Then plus w divided by x, which means part number 2 result, part number 3, add those two together, and then minus y, that will be assigned to z. So please, whenever you're writing down the equations, my advice to you, whenever you're doing this encoding, please use parentheses, which force actually that you have to do this calculation first and then assign it to the next one over there. So please remember the PEMDAS rule, which is the parenthesis, exponential, M for multiplication, D for division, A for addition, and S for subtraction over there. And of course, you have to use the left to the right rule over there. Next thing, very important, which is the decision making. As I was telling you, that whenever you have to do some decision making, supposingly over here, if you are asking, let's say if I'm going to make a program and I want to actually decide that, okay, I'm going to enter all those students' marks which are going to be added at the end of the semester, and I want to find out, okay, how which one have passed, which one are not passed. So I'm going to enter a code inside my program that, okay, if the student marks are above, like supposedly 35, then it's going to be passed. If it's not, it's going to be failed. And for that purpose, the type of statement, now this is actually a new statement coming in for C language, and that statement here is called as the if statement. If we already know in English language, again, this is a high level language, so that's why I'm using the if statements over there. So it uses the if statements to change the program control flow. Okay. So the program was running very simple over there. Let's go to the Visual Studio Code and I will just tell you. Let's say if I was going with this example. Now what is happening over here in this code? We are taking an integer 1, we have an integer 2, we have initialized them equal to 0, and now I'm taking two inputs over here from the user over there, and I have a sum calculated, and this is normal program flow. So this is happening like this. Supposingly, I am going to put a condition over here that, okay, if the sum is over here, if supposingly, if the sum which is being calculated by integer 1 plus integer 2, if this is greater than 10, supposingly, then I'm not going to display anything. On if it is less than 10, then I'm going to display it. Just a condition, I'm not, without any explanation over there, I'm just putting a condition over there. Then this means that now there are two program flows, because it's now based on a condition, and that condition over here is that this value of sum, that is actually again a variable, a bucket, a data bucket over there of integer data type, that is going to store that sum over there, and that sum is going to be evaluated, that if that sum is greater than 10, then it's going to be display. If it's not, then it's not going to display. For that purpose, the statement used is if over there, and that if over here, let me just go on back over there. Now that condition has to be evaluated based on some operator, which means the operator which is going to decide, okay, if it is greater than, less than, equal to, divide, less than or equal to whatever stuff. So that operator over here is supposedly you want to evaluate greater than, then of course we know the greater symbol, then we have less than, then we have the greater than and equal to, which means both of conditions are there, which means it affects is greater than or equal to y. Then I have the less than and equal to statement over there. Then there is an equal statement and there is not equal to statement. So these are all the operators or all the possible combinations which I want to operate, because this is a number and that number I want to evaluate over there. For that purpose, let's just go, before going on to the slides over there. Let's just say I want to change this code. Let's say, and let me just first of all run this code for in front of you. Let me just run this code. I'm just opening this. Let me open this and let me just run it. Okay. Actually, it's asking for my password. I don't want it. Uh, Actually, it's asking because in MacBook, the security vulnerability is much higher there. So that's why you can see because it was a new folder and I was actually asking it for compiling it. The compiler was going to take that folder. That's why it's going to take all this. So let me just arrange all this folder, and it's now asking, it's running me enter the first integer. Supposedly I just enter 5. Uh, okay, I guess I have done some mistake, or maybe the folder which I've added over there. Um, Let me just again run it. Okay, so 5, enter the second integer, 6, and the sum is 11. So it normally gives me the answer, whatever I have entered over there. Now I wanted that if the number which is going to be the sum is greater than 10, then it's going to display, otherwise it does not display. So what I'm going to do, remember one thing more, as a programming expert, you will understand this later on, but I will want you to learn this one before. Uh, is this that whenever there is one chunk of code, always have some space in between. You can see over there in these two lines what is happening. You're asking the user, okay, enter this integer, and then you are asking the scanf command over there. You are actually storing that value. Then one thing. So if this space was not there, you can see now the 4 lines are combined together. It makes it difficult for me to understand. So having this spacing or one line empty over there, a new line feed over there, actually makes it easy to understand. So you can see this is actually asking or prompting the user to actually enter a number. This is also prompting, this is doing the sum calculation, and this is printing. So this is very important. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to enter again. Remember, if statement again, my Visual Studio Code knows it. If, and then brackets open. This is very important. Why bracket open? Because that condition can be complex. Here at present, I have just only going to calculate it for one variable or one thing. So you can see now it's already giving me if sum is greater than 100. So I just don't want it. Let's say, so if sum is greater than 10, let's say, if sum is greater than 10, let me just change it. So sum exceeds 10, and I've just replayed it. So if sum is greater than 10, brackets open, you can see the brackets open. The brackets are much important over there. Even if I don't put the bracket for one single line, it will still work. Let me just show you first of all. And if I just take this one, take one, because after one, and I have put some tab over there, which means now this statement will be only run if this statement is true. Else, now that next statement is else. And after this else, I write down printf sum is 10 or less. And just for the sake of this experiment, I'm just making this a comment. So I don't want to display the sum. What I'm doing over here, you can see, I'm just evaluating this expression that if sum is greater than 10, then the sum exceeds 10. But if this condition is not true, else, then what I'm going to print, sum is 10 or less. Okay, so sum is, sorry, is less than 10, not 10, because it was actually, so this will be sum is less than 10. So this is like this. So now when I'm going to just save it and I just run this one. So it runs it for enter the first integer. Let's see, it has compiled it. 6, sum exceeds 10. So you can see now that 5 plus 6, sum exceeds 10. Now let's just run it again. Let's just do it for a small value. Let's say 3, 4. Now the sum is 7. So it's less. So it should be written. So now you can see there are two program flows over there. So one is if the sum is greater than 10, one is if sum is less than 10. Now, this is normally always done. Now, if you have made some account at Gmail, Facebook, or something, this normal program flow is done over there. Because if you have selected, supposedly the app or whatever you are doing a registration, it asks you, okay, you are from which country? So you select Pakistan from that drop down box over there, or you select any other country, it's going to normally add the country code itself. So again, there is a program flow over there. So based on your choice, it's actually deciding that what is the next action that that code is going to take. Now that action over there is in form of a website, an app, or something like that. Here we're just starting the coding. It's a programming fundamentals course, so we're just taking an action based on whatever variable we have over there. And the only variable at present, I have integer 1, integer 2, and the variable sum. So I'm doing this one. Let's see, I do one thing more. Let's say I make it greater than or equal to, which means that sum is greater than or equal to 10, which means that if sum is greater than or equal to 10, so sum exceeds 10 or is equal to 10. So what I've done over there, I've used this operator, which is greater than or equal to, and this is exactly coming from this equation. So you can see over there, this is greater than or equal to, x is greater than or equal to y. So I'm just doing it over there. So if sum is greater than or equal to 10, so sum exceeds 10 or is equal to 10, just save it and I just run it again. So I guess I've done some mistake. Let me just, no, I have not done some mistake, I guess. I'm not doing some mistake, I guess. Maybe I've, let me just confirm it out again. If sum is one, no, that's, okay, so I guess this was not saved, I guess that's why. Enter the first integer. So now what I'm going to do, let's say I just enter two numbers and there are 5, 5. So now what the sum is? Sum is 10. So now there is the condition. This will be still true. Why? Because this is evaluating if it is greater than or equal to 10. So now when I will just press enter on this thing, you can see sum exceeds 10 or is equal to 10. So now you have another statement over there. So this is called a conditional statement, and this is using the if else operator, and if statement has been written. Now, supposingly, I want to have a large number of commands below the sum or the if statement. So supposingly, let's say I want to add a statement over there. Let's say I want to add some few statements over there, and let's say I'm to adding it over there. So now what I'm doing, you can see now what I'm doing over there. Just below the statement, I have added parentheses, and these parentheses are now telling me that, okay, now I am going to print not just one message. So I'm just, let's say, I want to add another one. So I just want to add it. This is when if statement is true. So what will happen now? These two statements will be printed. This will not be printed. Same thing. I want just want to, let's say I want to add some. Uh, you can see because of the code runner and all that, automatically it's giving me the. So now, uh, so it's not ready. So what is happening now? If sum is greater than 10 or greater than or equal to 10, these two statements will be printed. If not, else, which means that they are not true, which means sum is less than 10, then these two statements will be printed. Let's see what happens. Run it. Enter the first integer. Let's see, I want to add 4 and 3. Now the sum is less than 10. So this means that this else portion, this one should be printed then. Again, press on enter. So you can see this is when if statement is false. So these two statements are being printed. You can see very easily. So you can see very easily that your statements are being printed over there. I can add the backslash and the line feed over there for this one and for this one also, just to make it over there. So this is called as an if else statement as depicted in the slides over there. So remember one thing. So whenever you want to do any operation on any other variable, now remember one thing, at present I'm doing this operators for just the integer or the float over there. So you can use any of these operators. Similarly, if you want to evaluate not equal to, then the not equal to is using this exclamation mark, and equal to, this actually tells the C language that okay, I'm evaluating that they both are not equal. Like supposedly you want to evaluate the password of some your user account. So you want to equate it that okay, you have entered that email address or whatever, and then you want to equate it that okay, this password is equal to the stored password in our database or in our storage. Then you are going to access your emails. So this is exactly the same thing over there. And again, this is going to be an if-else statement, just like same over there. So this is the if-else statement. I've just done this over there, and the exactly same thing. So if condition is going to be evaluated, then whatever is inside those parentheses. Remember, parentheses are a must if you have like more than one line of code. For one line even, you can add the parenthesis that actually adds to you, but normally people don't read it. If there is only one line to be printed or one line action to be done, then you can avoid this parenthesis over there. But if this if statement is not true, then the next thing is that you can add. And remember, you can add more and more if. Remember, if statement is always there, else can be omitted. It's conditional, which means it can be omitted. I don't want it. Supposedly, let's say I don't, if this sum is greater than this, then I don't want this thing, this program will still work. So what will happen? I'm not going to print anything. So what happens? If sum is greater than this, then this will be true. So let's just run it again. So what happens? You can see now, enter the first integer. Let's say I enter 2 and I enter 3. Now what is the sum? Sum is 5. So what will happen? This portion of the code is not going to run. So what will happen? The program will terminate because there is no other condition or another program written. So 2 plus 3, and you can see the program terminates. And so if statements are there, so you have to add them over there, but else statements can be omitted if you don't want that to happen. Similarly, you can use it to print anything. You can use it for printing variables or something, whatever you want to do it. You can see this is the integer being printed, this is an integer being printed. So this is just a simple comparison of two codes over there, or two numbers which you have entered over there. Number one and number two are the two integers you can see over there. You can run this program on your own. Please remember, have this practice. Whenever I'm doing this codes and all that thing, I have given you this link over here, and please run all these codes and write these codes on your own. Practice over here for your programming is going to make you better. Just seeing this and just seeing this codes, me being writing, running them, or just reading these codes are not going to make it. So please have this habit of actually writing down these codes on your own. Then you can actually learn this coding. And remember, practice makes the man perfect. So coming back to this one, I have these two variables, number one and number two. So number one, if it is equal to, you can see, remember, for equal to, this is not just one equal to, there are two equal to signs over there, which actually is this, that you are evaluating this expression that number one is equal to number two. Then number one is not equal to number two. Then what happens? Then the statement is written that this is not equal to this. Then if number one is less than number two, then this is the statement written. So you can see now there are how many program flows? There's one, two, three, four. So four program flows are there, and each program flow is having a different print to it. Only one will be run at one time because number one and number two are two different values over there. So this is actually a program which is comparing two integers over there and telling the user that, okay, this one is equal, this one is not equal, this one is less than, this one is greater than that. So, and remember one thing, this is one if else statement over there. One if else, one if else, one if else, one if else. It can be nested if also over there. But remember, before I go on towards the nested if, I will go on to this one. So remember one thing again, this is the operator precedence over here, the summary over there, which is we're using the parenthesis first. Again, I'm going back to over there. Then you have the multiplication, division, and the modulo sign or the remainder operator, then the plus sign and negative. And now since you have done the this thing, which is the operators over there, which is the inequality with equal to, with greater than or equal to, then the two equals to, not equal to, and then you have the assignment operator over there. So this is very important that you remember this operator and their precedence up till now. These operators, you are fully aware with this operators over there. And let me just give you that example over there because I'm using the book one. So I have this example. Let's see, I have this example. Now you can run this example. And So you can see the exact same example which was in the book. I have this one. Number one and number two are two variables. So enter two integers and I will tell you the relationship they satisfy. So this program is actually going to run and actually tell you that two numbers which are going to be entered by me is going to tell you that, okay, which one is equal to which. So this is a if else statement. So you can see now these are like many if else statements over there. So let's just run it and let's see. And this compiles it. Enter the two integers and I will tell you the relationships that is right. Supposedly I enter 5 and 5. So one time 5, another time 5. So now it's telling me 5 is equal to 5. 5 is less than or equal to 5. 5 is greater than or equal to 5. Now, why these three have been also run? Because if you see back to your code, this is run because I have entered two numbers. They were 5 and 5. So this means this part is run. But at the very same time, if you go on the last two, they are also run. Why? Because here, if number one is less than or equal to, so there's the condition. So if number one is less than or equal to, then that's why this is also run. So if you have run this portion, then of course, technically, these two should not be running over there. We will come back to this one, the program flow. We can terminate this one by using variables and all that. But at present, this is showing these three results to you because these are also true at the very same time. Let's just run it and do it for another command over there. Let's say I enter 6 and I enter 8. So now there are two unequal numbers. And of course, 6 is less than 8. So you can see now what is happening. 6 is not equal to 8. Of course, it's not equal to 8. Similarly, 6 is less than 8. Yes, it's true. 6 is less than or equal to 8. So again, three conditions are being fulfilled. And you can see these three conditions out of how many statements are there? One, two, three, 4 and 5 and 6. So out of 6, 3 are being fulfilled. And of course, if there are two numbers, either it's going to not equal to, either it's going to be equal to, either it's going to be less than. And since there is an conditional statement where there is an equal to and less than, and then there is a greater than or equal to. So of course, these two will be run. So please kindly go through this all codes over there. This is again from the link over there. So again, going back to the slides over there. And just last one over there, I guess, is the reserve words. You already are familiar. We have been using these reserve words a lot up till now. So you have used this a lot up till now. You have used the integer, you have used the float, you have used the double up till now, you have used the character up till now. The remaining words are still not familiar with you at present. And as the course progresses, you will go with a lot over there. Up till now, you have used the word void a little bit. You have used the one unsigned over there. You have used the word if over there. You have also used the else. Actually, it's not written over there, but if and else, they both are there. So this else is there. Actually, else is there. Sorry for that. Then we will come on to this all this reserve words. Remember one thing: these words have a special meaning in ceilings, and they tell the compiler what to do. So you can't replace them, and you can't use them as a variable name also. So this is very important. You can't use the word if as a variable name. Okay, you also can't use else as a variable name. So this is something very important, that these reserve words are reserved for the compiler to actually compile. So you can't use them as a variable name. Next thing, very important, and this is a part of chapter number 2, that if you want to have a secure program, which means that you don't want your hackers to be attacking your code and something like that. So for this purposes, you are going to use the printf function in a little different way. The answer will be exactly the same, but it will be a little better from this over there. And that is actually called over there is called as the secure printf. Now, what is an insecure way? You are actually printing something like this. And you have done this very first code of this course. We talked about welcome to C, and that was simple with the escape character. That was welcome to C. So why this can be dangerous? Because if the string comes from a user input, it might contain format specifier. What is a format specifier? Format specifier is that percentage sign D, percentage sign S, percentage sign I, or whatever that is the variable. So attackers can craft malicious format strings and they can lead to reading unauthorized memory locations. So they can put something inside instead of putting the number. Like supposedly you're asking the user, okay, enter some number, and instead of doing, they put the format specifier over there, and they can read some memory locations from your computer. So this is something not good, and hacker can actually attack it. So the safer alternative that prevents the format string attacks is this, that instead of just writing down printf welcome to C, use puts that is welcome to C. What this does, puts only displays the string plus a new line, no format processing. Remember, instead of printf, now from now on, use puts that is welcome to C. What this does, it only displays string. Remember, puts is only used for the string, and it already automatically adds that the backslash n, which is the escape character for a new line to be added or a new feed to be added over there. Next thing, if you have a string without a new line you want to add over there, then you have to use the printf statement. And that printf statement, instead of just writing down enter age, you write down this format specifier inside double quotes, and over here you write down enter age. What is this? Format specifier is telling you it's a string coming in, and after the comma, the next thing is that in double quotes is the string that is enter age. Now what is going to happen, the printing will be just this portion, that is printf, and it's going to be already specified that okay, there is a string coming in over there. So a printf with percentage as explicitly specified string format over there. Both prevent format string attack. So this is something very important. Maybe add your codes at present, because now you are doing them on your laptops or on your PCs. So it's not going to be that much problematic. But these attacks do happen, and when you go on towards your intermediate or your as a good programmer, you will be understanding that these attacks can happen on your code, because we are just making very small codes at present which are not going to be attacked as such from any other place. But remember to use this puts if you are just printing some text over there, or if you want to enter without a new line, then you can use this printf with a format specifier and the string add after the comma over there. Remember, whenever you are using this format specifier, it has to be inside double quotes over there. Next thing, very important, just example, just to tell you over there. So if you have the normal, you have been writing down, enter your name, welcome to programming. Now you can use it using puts, that is puts over there, that is welcome to programming. And here, instead of enter your name, you have printf percentage s enter your name, because this was without any backslash n, which is escape character. So you can use the puts and printf using the format specifier for the printfs over there. So this is a secure version over here, and this one is the potentially insecure version over there. Then a little some examples over there, and I want you to go through them, these examples, and I'll just go through like one or two of the examples over there. Here, very simply, what you are doing over there, you have defined. Now, one thing I want to actually talk about over there is that I have defined pi as 3.14159. This actually means over here, this line, this word define is a new word for you here today. And this is telling the compiler that, okay, I am defining a word which is going to be called as pi in caps over there. And that is having a value of 3.14159. So it's just like a constant. So it's just like a constant. So we already know, just like whenever you are doing some coding in your, you're doing some mathematical calculations, and you already know, okay, the value of mu naught is 4 pi into 10 raised to power minus 7. The value of pi is equal to 3.14159. The value of epsilon naught is something different, or the value of supposedly any other constant in mathematics or in anywhere. So similarly, the compiler is being told by the word define that whenever I'm going to use this word pi, pi, it can be small, it can be caps also, totally up to you. So here it's using the caps over there. So the value is going to be, so whenever the word pi is going to be used, it's going to be replaced by 3.14159. Okay. Then in the code, very simply, after the int main function, that is the main function over there, you have the float, two variables, radius and area. You are asking the user enter the radius, which means you are asking the user that what is the radius over there. Then you have the scanf, and you are storing that whatever value that is in, of course, in floats, 2 point something, whatever that value. And you are actually calculating the area by pi into radius, because the radius of the area of a circle is pi r square. So this is pi r square over there. And then afterwards, when you have calculated the area, you are just printing that area with zero point 0.2 accuracy, which means that the area is going to be printed in float with two significant digits after the decimal. So this is the printf statement being added over there. And then afterwards, you have the return 0 over there. Remember one thing, this return 0 can be avoided if the void is written. Void means that there is nothing going to be entering this function because it's the main function. There is going to be nothing out of this one. So this is using the escape sequences over there. You can use, instead of this printf, you can use the put statement as well over here. Kindly try to do this thing on your practice, and you will be seeing. And you kindly try to make a code for maybe a area of a triangle, maybe area of a trapezoid, area of a parallelogram, or something like that. And just try to make the small programs as a practice over there. Next thing, very importantly, if you are having some account in your bank over there, this you can actually calculate the simple interest over there, and that simple interest is here the interest is going to be PRT divided by 100, where P is the principal amount, R is the rate, T is the time, and 100 is just that factor of the percentage over there, the rate over there. So again, this is a small code, and doing the very same calculation, you can see the formula which is over there, that is principal into rate into time divided by 100. And then you are actually printing the interest amount, or the amount which is you are going to earn on your amount. Supposingly you have deposited $100 or 100 rupees in your account, and based on the bank percentage, you are going to get some interest from bank over there, and that is going to be paid. So it's a very small program. Can you try to do this one on your own on your Visual Studio Code and practice this thing? Then very simple code over there. Again, you want to do some calculation or conversion from the centigrade to Fahrenheit, which is the normal done, because if I'm talking about Pakistan, we normally are familiar with the Celsius one. We normally always talk in the Celsius degrees. We never really talk about the Fahrenheit, but if you go on towards the west in US, the normal temperature scale is Fahrenheit. So you can actually add a program that can actually change it from Celsius to, and that formula is very simple. You have to do is a simple 9 divided by 5 into C plus 32. So you just have to do this parenthesis over there. So you can see your Celsius into 9 divided by 5 and plus 32. And whatever that value is, you are printing it over there inside this variable Fahrenheit. And that Fahrenheit is a float variable. Remember one thing, whenever you're doing these conversions over there, please use float over there, because these conversions are going to give you, if you're going to use int over there, of course the decimal part will be truncated over there. So it's a very small program. You can make some similar programs if you want to convert. Supposedly you want to convert from kilometer to mile, you want to change it from kilogram to pounds. Kindly make the small programs that is going to actually assist you. Or maybe from maybe for millimeter to meter or centimeter, it's not going to be that, it's just going to multiply or divide by 1000 or something like that. But normally, if you are going to change it from, like, maybe from mile to yards or something like that, that's going to be much better. Or pound to kilograms, they are going to be beneficial for your understanding, and specifically when you're going to write down the mathematical equation for that. And similarly, run code, which is also a part of your lab as well. I've given this one over there. That is, if you want to find out if your number is even or odd, I will not go into specifics of this one. Very simply, you can find it out by using the division or the remainder operator. That is a remainder operator. If you divide it by 2 and the remainder is 0, then this means it's an odd number, because if you have a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you divide it by 2, the answer, the remainder is 0. So this means, and you have used very simply over there, if this one, you can see number num is a variable, and you are dividing it by 2, which means you are doing the remainder, the modulus operation. And if this is equal to, you can see the equal operator is this one, is equal to 0, then you are going to print that it is even. If else, if this condition is not true, then it's going to be odd. So very simple program, just and asking the user to enter an integer. Again, this is an integer, not a float. Remember, even and odd values are only for integers over there, the basic one. So this is printing that it's even or it's odd over there. Very important program. Which one? This one, I want you to do it over there. Is this, that if you are asking the user to enter two numbers, which is number one and number two over there. Again, two variables over there, which is number one, number two, and choice. What is choice over there? Choice is the operation which you want to do. So if you are asking the user that, okay, what you want to do, you want to, previously, if you remember in your lab number 2 or lab number 3, we did over there all the sum calculation. We did sum, we did multiply, but here now we are asking the user that, okay, we will do one calculation. Just tell us which calculation you want to do. If you want to do add, press 1. If you want to do subtract, press 2. Since we don't have a graphical user interface, I don't have a calculator like this one. So if you, in your calculator, let me just show you the calculator. In this calculator, you can do 3 plus 3 and all that stuff easily over there. But here I'm doing a simple code over there, and that code is just taking some inputs and the keyboard. So the only answer is by keyboard. So that's why I'm asking, okay, if you want to do add, press 1. If you want to do subtract, then press 2. If you want to multiply, press 3. If you want to do divide, then press 4. You can add other options as well using the maths library over there. So here you are again asking the user scanf percentage %t, which is again an integer, and you are asking, okay, what choice you are going to have. So if choice is equal to 1, which means you are want to add. So the two numbers are already there stored in number 1 and number 2. So the result is number 1 plus number 2. Then next thing, if your choice is 2, this means you are going to subtract. If choice is equal to 3. And now one thing very important, which is over there. Now I want only one if statement to be done. So what I have done over there, if else if, which means that if this statement is true, then the remaining ones are not going to run over there. So this is very, very important. So if this if statement is going to be true, then this statement is not going to be run, because if this statement is not true, then it will go on towards the else, and after the else there is another if over there on the same line with a space over there, else if choice is equal to 2. And if this statement is also not true, then it will go on towards the next thing, which is else if. Now this is what is making that it's now a conditional if and if and if and if. So one if is not there, then the next if, then if it's not there, one if it's true, the remaining ifs will not be run. So it's just like over there, choice equal to 1, run this one. Choice equal to 2, run this one. Choice equal to 3, run this one. Choice equal to 4, and number 2 is not equal to 0. Now you can see this check over there. What is this check over there? This check is actually doing it that the number 2 which you have entered, the integer, is not a 0, because if it is 0, the code is not going to run. It's going to be terminated, because division by 0 is not possible, because number 4 choice is division. I told you in the very start of this lecture that you can't divide 4 by 0. So over here, 4 by 0. So if this is, if choice is this and number 2 is not equal to 0, so this condition will only be there if the two numbers are non-zero integer numbers. Then it's going to divide number 1 by number 2 and give you the integer division over there. You can do it for float as well, but again, I just code only runs for the integer over there. So this is just going to give you. Then if all of these are not working, then else there is a bracket open and there's written invalid choice or division by 0. So it's actually telling us that, okay, you have not given the right choice over there. So that's why it's not going to do any calculation for you. So either you have not put 1, 2, 3, 4, or because this was not done because it was a 0 number. So number 2 was equal to 0 over there. That's why this calculation was not done. Kindly write this program on your own on your Visual Studio Code and try to run this one, because this is a very classical example of using an if-else statement combined with another else and then if over there. This actually tells you that how you can actually suppress your only one statement will be run at that particular time over there. So this is a very basic arithmetic calculator over there. I guess I don't have this example maybe in this one. Let me just check it out. Maybe okay, it's not there, so I will just go back on that one. Kindly copy this one over here. I guess this is not, because it's a practice question, this is not available in that folder over there. Just copy it over there and then you will be able to run this one. So this is the end of chapter number 2, and remember one thing, as I have been telling you, that programming is a skill developed through practice. Every error you make and fix makes you a better programmer. So please don't be afraid of doing any errors. You will do errors, you will learn it from it, and if you are not going to do errors and you're just going to copy paste something from your chat gpt or somewhere, then it's going to be not a practice for you. You're not going to learn it. Remember, you have to learn it. Your learning curve is something very, very important. Before I move on to the next part, I just want to start chapter number 3, which is something very, very important. And chapter number 3 is about the problem solving. Now this is something very, very important. and I just want to start it. Maybe in the next part, I will complete it all. But just to in this chapter, I'm going to talk about the introduction to the problem solving. Now, before you are going to write down any code, remember one thing, up till now, we have been doing very simple programs, taking two inputs, multiplying them, divisions, maybe finding out which one is larger than that, which one is smaller than that, and all that stuff over there. So it's something very easy. But when the code becomes long, the problem becomes long, then before writing down the code, you need a little path. You need a clear plan. For that purpose, a simple example in this book or in these slides is this. If you want to make a house, then you just don't go and start putting your brick over there and just start doing it. First of all, you will go to an architect. You will ask for drawing, and that drawing is actually going to tell you, okay, this brick is going to be, this room is going to be there, this room is going to be there. And you first of all make some blueprints, some drawings over there. So similarly, whenever you are trying to have a code written, you have to have the problem approach, the problem solving approach. This problem solving approach is something very important. You have to understand the problem completely and plan your solutions step by step. This is very, very important. Then you have to write down the code. For that purpose, there is going to be a pseudo code written first. And what does pseudo code mean? This will come in the next slides over there. So before done the pseudo code, you have to find out the algorithm. For example, I was going to write down a program which is going to actually find out the solution for a quadratic equation, for example. So as soon as this question comes in front of me, I am going to actually think, okay, the quadratic equation formula is equal to minus b plus minus bracket the square root over here b square minus 4ac and the whole divided by 2a. Okay, so this is the solution, and it will be two answers over there because of the plus minus sign over there. So I know, okay, what means I have to take input two, sorry, A, I have to take the input B, I have to take the input C, and these three can be, supposedly they are integers. I'm not going to do the float value. These three are integers. So I want to have three variables that are going to store it over there, and then I need a math library because I need to have the square root as well over there. And then I need to see that, okay, if it's going to be a complex number, because the value b square minus 4ac, it can be negative. So this is a step-by-step procedure I'm actually telling you, that you have to make a step-by-step procedure. Now, as beginners, you maybe have to write it down on a piece of paper. But as intermediate or some very experienced programmers, you just have to make it in your head. At least in your head, you have to make it. So you have to follow that action, and the order very much matters over there. So that order is something very much important. Just example in this slide over there, I guess, if you can go on. If you are going to getting ready for the work, of course you have to first of all get out of bed, take off your pajamas or your clothes over there, take a shower, get dressed, eat breakfast, and go to work. Normally, if you are a Pakistani, normally you are, or if you are a host light, you are not going to actually take even the breakfast or maybe take a shower over there. Just going to get out of the bed, maybe not even get dressed, or just have some slippers on and just going to go to the work or for the classroom over there. But normally that is not the actual way. So you have to follow a sequence, and you have to follow that order which is going to be done. So similarly in programming, you can't just make b square minus 4ac without initializing a, b, and c as variables, as integers or data buckets over there. So this is something very important, that you have to follow the order over there. So the correct order is something very important. As I have already told you, you don't want to go towards the wrong orders, get out of bed, take off pajamas and all that stuff. So there's a wrong order over there. So that's normally we normally do this thing, the wrong order stuff in our life a lot. And that's why we end up in a lot of problems over there. Now, the word pseudocode, I just used a little 1 minute back. And what is a pseudocode? A pseudocode is just like an informal language. If you just remember, just like 1 minute back, I told you that if you want to make a quadratic equation solution program, you need A, you need B, you need C. You need to have them initialized. Okay. And then afterwards, you need to write down the equation. But before computing the equation, you need to also find out, okay, B square minus 4AC. If it is less than 1, it's a complex solution. So math library is maybe not going to give you that complex answer. So you need to program that one. Then afterwards, when you have done it, you need also plus, you need also minus. And if it is being divided by a is supposedly 0, then it's not going to be a quadratic equation. This is very important because b square minus 4 b square plus sorry, a square plus b square plus c is a quadratic equation. But if a is not there, because ax square plus b x plus c is the quadratic equation. So here, if a is 0, then it's not a quadratic equation, because the quadratic equation is one equation which has the polynomial highest degree equal to 2 over there. So a quadratic equation. So a is equal to 0. So you have to do a check over there. So this is a normal English language. You have to write down a pseudo code on a piece of paper with some points that whatever, what variables you require, how you have to actually write down the variables, how you are going to check on which variables are going to be used, which libraries you are going to use. And that pseudo code which you are going to write down on a piece of paper is actually going to tell your brain that what you have to do in your code. So it's not a normal language program or something like that. It's a simple English words which you have to write down for your understanding. And remember, this problem solving is like 50% of the problem. As programmers and being in this field from the last 20 plus years, I can tell you very easily, if you could write down a problem on a piece of paper, half of the problem is gone. Remember this thing. If you can write that down, even in your daily life, you are in some problem, you have some other emotional or psychological issue, something like that. If you can write down that problem on a piece of paper, half of your problem is gone. This is a practical experience. From my experience, I'm telling you, even in your coding stuff, if you have written down your problem, that means that half of your problem is gone. Half of it is done. You just now have to use your fingers, use your keyboard and all that stuff and write it down. And that is the point where you're going to get that learning curve. This is very important over there. Next thing, very important. So let's say I'm just taking a very simple example. So if you want to calculate the average of three numbers, so three numbers, okay, what are the characteristics of these three numbers? They are going to be integers. Okay, of course. First of all, I will take the first number input, of course, scanf. Second input, third number, add all those three numbers, divide sum by 3, and display the average. It's simple. Now, there is one check which you have to do, because if you are going to have three numbers, can they be negative? Because that is also possible. That is also possible that if supposedly the first number was 5, the second number was 1, and the third number is minus 6. So now the sum becomes equal to 0. So that's another thing, but I'm not going to do that one. But this pseudo solution on a piece of paper actually tells you what you have to do. This tells that portion. So one first thing, input first number, it's actually telling you, okay, I have to first of all intimate by using a printf statement, and I'm going to use the scanf and store it inside a variable which I have already initialized. Similarly, you have to input a second number, then a third number, add all three numbers. Of course, it means you have to use the plus operator, the mathematics plus operator. Then divide by sum by 3, because 3 is the number over there. Three numbers you have input, so division operator. And if you want to display it, again, printf statement, and you have it. So now this becomes more easy. So have this habit whenever you are writing down some code, where you're taking some input, you are taking some output over there. This is much easier to understand over there. And something very important, that is called as the control over there. So if your code is running just in sequence over there, this is called as a sequential execution. But if there is an if else statement coming in, then there is a transfer of control. Sometimes we need to change this order, and this is exactly the same thing. Let me go on the Visual Studio Code over there. Let me just open it. And this was happening inside this code. What is happening? If I'm inputting some number one, number two in this variable. So if number one is equal to number two, the control goes on here. The control of the code goes on here. It will never go inside this one, because the two numbers are not equal. So if numbers are equal, this will go on here. And after executing this one line statement, or like two line statements over there, it will also go here and also here, because there is an equal to sign over there. So this is called as the transfer of control over there. So remember one thing, your code starts with a very start basic, and then afterwards, just like when you're registering on Facebook or Gmail or anywhere, any other social media website, and it tells you, okay, you are going to be like this. So you are from Pakistan. just for your information, if you are going on youtube.com, YouTube has now multiple servers. So if you, and based on the request from the government of Pakistan, they have made multiple servers. So whenever, if you are using YouTube without a VPN, so if you write down youtube.com, it detects your IP address. It detects, okay, physically you are in Pakistan. It tells you or takes you to the page youtube.com.pk. So there is a totally different website. And if you have seen on your YouTube, if you are using VPN, then of course you can visit different YouTube versions of different countries over there. So this is, you can try this one on your YouTube and you will find it out. So a sequential execution is the normal execution without any if else statements or any conditional statements being done over there. Then this transfer of controls and control structure, tools that help us control the flow. And that is actually the if else statements or the while statement, which will come on in this chapter later on over there. So the three types of control structures over here. One is the sequence, execute statements one by one, selection, choose between different paths. Just like you are doing this selection paths over there. So you had one path here, you had one path here, you had one path here, one path here. So there are like five different paths over there. So these paths are being decided by over there. Let me open the slides again, sorry. So, and if there is an iteration, now this is a new word for you. Sometimes you need to iterate it, which means you have to do it more than one time. So if you want to execute a command more than one time, this is called as iteration. You have to run it for more number of times. Like supposedly, you have to write down, okay, you are asking or telling the user, okay, uh, hooray, you have won. So you want to write that statement for like five times. Now you are going to write it down like supposedly printf statement five times. Oh, that's going to be laborious. You are wasting your line over there. So that is the repeating statements multiple times. That is by using the for loop or the while loop. We'll come back to it later on in this chapter. But this is the three types of control structure. Sequence, you have already done it because you have been following that sequence up till now in this coding. And the selection criteria based on your conditional statement. The conditional statement which you have run or read up till now is the if else statement over there. So choose between different paths over there. So this is the control structure. And just to finish off this one, a very simple flow chart. Now this flow chart is a visual representation telling you now the words which you have written over there, this one, this pseudo code, now you are going to write it down or draw it in form of a flow chart, a visual representation. Now this is something also some people, instead of writing down in a pseudo code, this is a visual representation by using some special symbols. Begin, which means you start your code, you initialize it somewhere over there, then the processor action in a rectangular box. You want to take some input, you want to take some calculation, you are going to take some output over there. A very simple is a rectangular box. Now, if you are doing some conditional statement, then it's a rhombus, or you can call it a parallelogram or whatever you can call it. But this is going to be a decision box over there. That is actually a true or false. If statement is going to be true, then it's going to go on one side. If it is going to be false, it's going to on the other side. How? I will just show you later on. And then there is a circular part, which is actually the connection point if the command is now going on towards two different paths. For example, let's just see one on this slide. A simple flowchart example. The command, the program begins, then it takes in a rectangular box the input grade, which means the scanf command, then add grade to the total. So whatever that grade is, it's going to be added to the total. Add one to the counter, command ends. A very simple code. It takes an input from the user in form of it. It adds it to the total, add one to the whatever variable there is counter, and it ends the program. It is very simple with no program flows, just one program flow, and that's over there. One step after the other, the structure is complete. But if you are going to add some if else statement, for example, if this condition was there, which means that if grade is greater than or equal to 60, now this is a very high grade, don't worry, I'm not going to put this condition on you people. The grade will be approximately like 40 or 35 over here for you people, that you have to pass on for this course. You have to have 35 to 40 marks. So if you have an if else statement, so this means that if your grade is greater than or equal to 60, then you have going to print pass. Otherwise, it's fail, or you don't want to give anything. For that purpose, you are going to have a flow chart like this, and that is a decision box. You can see if your grade is greater than or equal to 60, then if it is true, print pass. If it is false, you can see this round connector or the circular connector. This is the connector. If you remember this thing, this was the connection point. So it's just like a connector, just like connecting two pipes over there or two wires over there. So it's just simply that you are having the print past is there and you are connecting it and then the next statement. So if your grade is greater than 60 or equal to 60, you are going to get the statement print past. Otherwise, nothing will be printed. Similarly, you can use this one. So the if else statement is going to be something like this. And if you have an if else statement, let's say this was just if statement. I told you if statement is there, then else can be omitted. It's not always there. So if you have if over there, but if you have an if else statement, which means if grade is greater than or equal to 60, then you have to print pass. If it is not, then print fail, which means, of course, you have failed in the course. Then this decision box becomes something like this. Then decision box, arrows going on downward to two rectangular boxes. One prints passed, one prints fail. And then after the connection points, it continues. And then maybe the program is going to end and then it's all over. So this decision box is something very, very important using the if else statement over there. And this if else statement is going to be very much important. And I will come back to this one when in chapter number 3. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the if else statement and another form of if else statement, which is called as the conditional operator, which is also called as the tertiary operator in some languages, not in C language, and that is called as the condition with using the question mark and the colon operator. We'll come back to it. So up to this slide number 14, this is our lecture for today. Please kindly go through this one and the codes which we have done over here in this, sorry, the C language over there using the if else statement or using the nested if over there. We will come back to this one later on in chapter number 3. In chapter number 3, we are going to talk about in the next lecture on the conditional operator, our nested if a little bit more. The same thing if your grade. Now, if you want to have a 90 grade, if you have a marks greater than 90, then it's A. If it is less than 90 but greater than 80, then it's going to be B. So you can have a little bit of grade. We'll talk about this one later on. And then we will talk about the while loop, which is very, very important, that a loop, which means repetition of statements can be done. So we'll talk about this in the next part over there. I hope you have understood it and thanks for watching. Allah Hafiz.